Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast that shares candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between and about men. This week, we're talking about burnout. And before we get into the topic, we're going to be asking you as the audience a couple questions. I'm saying we, but really I should be saying I, because it's just me this week. If you're not already, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. That way you know when new episodes are coming out. And if you like this week's episode, hit the like button. It actually helps a lot more than you might expect. And it's just a small thing you can do. I hope y'all enjoy this week's episode, and I'll see you again in a second when it starts. Peace. This is very nice. Very, very good. Check my shit. The mic test. 1 2 1 2. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, y'all gonna like that now. All right, tell the people what you got going on. This camera, this camera, this camera. What's new in your life? In this week's episode, the topic for On Your Mental is burnout. But before that topic, we're going to be getting into some things that we want to talk about around the podcast and kind of where we're taking the podcast. We're going to be talking about things that we want to hear from you as the audience. So for those of you who are big fans of the podcast or people who are just wanting to be engaged with what I'm talking about here, stick around for the first bit. But if you wanted to skip it, go for it. There's timestamps. If you want to just get straight over to burnout, go for it. You can just skip ahead. Kabir was in Miami. We said that last week. We said he was gone for Ultra Music Festival, for short. Turns out, a little bit of airtime, a little bit of partying can make a person sick. So Cabs is sick. He's away. He's not doing so hot. Kind of coughing up a storm, all that kind of jazz. But he's definitely out of it. Not COVID or anything like that, so that's cool. Oh, look at that. He's calling right now.
Should everybody go shirt on?
No. You don't need a shirt at all. Sup, you slut. I said that you're... Oh, there it is. There's the cough, you bastard. Anyways, tell the people you're okay.
I'm okay.
Sick, man.
Yeah, just definitely caught something after the Miami trip.
Caught a vibe, eh?
Caught the Miami, the super COVID.
Bienvenido a Miami. You know that's a Will Smith song too, eh?
That is, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
I don't know if I like that song anymore.
No, right? That's crazy.
This is probably good being it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Super COVID. I know I don't have COVID. I did three rapid tests since I've been back. So I think it's just some Miami flu, you know?
No.
Got the heebie-jeebies down there.
Well, I'm happy you're okay, you bastard.
Yeah, no, I wish I could be on the episode, but just not feeling up to it, of course.
But we'll see you next week, right?
Of course, we'll see me next week.
Okay. Okay, thanks for coming, Kev.
Of course, man. Yeah. Sorry I fell asleep.
That's okay, dude. That's okay.
All right.
I'll see you.
All right, see you. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Anyways, Cabs will be back next week. Whatever. It's not like I have a crush on him or anything like that. You know. So it's just me. Now, before I get into this week's topic, I was going to be talking about burnout and just kind of my own feeling around burnout. You might be thinking like, well, what the hell is burnout, right? Burnout to me is just when you're doing too much. You know, it's come to a point where you're feeling like you can't keep up with the same work that you've been doing. Yeah, just kind of feeling that way recently. So I'm going to be talking about that. But before that, something that I think is equally as important, perhaps more important, I have a question for you all as the audience. The question in general, and I'm going to break it down to little parts here, but the question in general is, what more do you want to see with On Your Mental? What I mean by that, and maybe to clarify, is I love what we've been doing with the podcast so far. This continues to be like the highlight of my working life, you know? I find a lot of fulfillment in putting these episodes together, putting these conversations together, hosting these, and bringing in our group of friends to have these conversations. I think that it's actually really special that we get to share these conversations with our friends, because not everybody has that, right? And that's feedback that we've gotten before on previous episodes, is that you feel like you're a part of this conversation. That's something that we want to continue to push. And that's always going to be core of what On Your Mental is feeling this sort of like sense of friendship and community in a way that's shared from our group of friends. And that extends to you all in the audience. But it's been awesome hearing another perspective. And that's what I learned from the episode with Derek Gerard, was that there are a lot of stories out there. That's just the thing that clicked. Of course, it's something that we knew before, that everybody has a story to share. That's something that I want to see more of on the podcast. That's something that I want to be bringing more of, because eventually, as this podcast continues to grow, you all as the audience are going to want to see that too. I would imagine that you're probably looking forward to seeing conversations with people that maybe you know of coming on to this podcast as a platform to talk about things related to mental health and what's on our mental. So in a way, I'm kind of asking what's on your mental this week. And I want to know, and please leave comments. Who would you want to see? This is maybe more for people who are local here in Vancouver, but who would you want to see on the podcast? Are there people that you think would be a good fit for this? I've been reaching out to a few people so far, and we've got at least one person interested that will be later on in the summer. And I think for people locally here, you're going to like this guest. But anyways, I'm not going to say more about it because it's not locked in yet. But yeah, who would you guys want to see? Whether it be a YouTuber, whether it be someone in the fitness industry, someone who is maybe more clinically practiced or educated in mental health. Who do you want to see on the podcast? That's the first question for y'all. If there are people that you want to see on here, leave a comment about who that is. If you don't want to leave a public comment, DM us. The DMs are always open on Instagram, and the link is in the description, so you can just pop over there and send a message. But the second question is, this is for you all as the audience. We need some questions to be asked for 2 episodes that we have planned further down the road this year. One episode is going to be an Ask the Boys. One is going to be an Ask the Girls. And maybe to help you out a little bit, we're looking for questions that fit into one of a few different categories. So we've got mental health and introspection, that kind of stuff. Relationships and love, because that's obviously a popular topic on the podcast. You'll notice in our episodes, those tend to have more views. But anyways, questions for episodes that would feature 2 male guests. That follows along that line of Ask the Boys. And then questions for episodes that would feature 2 female guests. And so that follows along the line of questions for Ask the Girls. So those are the kind of topics that we're looking to have more episodes about. Right now we've got written down, no joke, about 25 topics to go for the rest of this year. And I'm sure we'll come up with more, obviously, as things go on. So we have things planned, but we do want to engage you all a little bit more, hear from you and what you want to be seeing more of and questions that you want asked. Once in a while, we get questions sent to us, and we write those down and we put those into episodes when we can. But we want to make a couple episodes this season that are really just sharing questions asked by you. So this week, if you can, drop stuff in the comments. Leave some questions for us, and then we'll get that into later episodes for you. So anyways, the topic that I want to get into today with On Your Mental is burnout. And I talked about that just 2 seconds at the start of the episode here. I've been kind of feeling that sense of burnout starting to build up a little bit. The first thing I would ask myself even, what is burnout? And to clarify, for the way I see it, is it's just an overexertion of your personal energy. But the problem with burnout is that it doesn't just stop you from doing your work, or at least it's not just stopping me from doing work. It's affecting and kind of seeping into other parts of my life. Oddly enough, I've been in talking to people about burnout recently. A lot of people seem to be feeling the same way. And so maybe there's just something in the air, I don't know, but I'll try and paint a picture for you about how it's been feeling for me. Recently, a lot of days, I'm waking up tired. As soon as I wake up, already tired, I'll get a morning coffee and then still tired. 2 hours later, I'll get another coffee, still tired. I'll make it all the way through my day of work, and then I'm going to the gym, taking a scoop of pre-workout, which has more caffeine in it, still tired. I was yawning at the gym, and then I'm somehow still staying up until 1:30 in the morning working on questions and stuff for the podcast. So it's like my body's telling me that I need to like change something, that something isn't working, that I'm somehow like draining myself a little bit too much, but it's not doing anything about it, right? Because I think that's more of the mental part, right? Is you're in control ultimately, and like you get to choose what you want to change. But it's hard to, because at the same time, I enjoy the things that I'm doing, right? Yeah, I'm feeling burnt out, but I like the things that are causing the burnout, you know? Like I enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy working on the podcast. And for the most part, I enjoy work these days too. And so it kind of leaves me with the question, like, well, what do I cut out, you know? And I don't have the answer. This isn't a podcast for me to talk about having the answer. But I am going to talk about like what I would do, and what I am trying to do is like take inventory of the things in my life that I'm working on and that could possibly be cut back on in order to help with burnout. When you Google burnout, you'll find things that tell you, oh, these are the ways to notice the signs of it, and these are the things that cause it. Those things being a lack of sleep, stress, lack of exercise, poor diet, and then a few other little factors, but those are the 4 that I'm kind of focusing on and aware of when I'm thinking about burnout, because those to me are the things that I think I have the most control over. Lack of sleep, God, I mean, I was just saying there that I don't fall asleep until like 1:30 at the earliest, right? But that's like just getting into bed, you know? And that doesn't matter if I've got a shift that starts the next day at 8 in the morning. Like that's still pretty commonplace for me these days. But I'm doing that because there are things going on that I want to make time for. For example, my partner doesn't get off work until quite late. And so even though I'm done my work earlier in the day, I don't get to see her until later on. So I kind of want to like be around a little bit. But then the problem is, because I'm so tired, I'm not really being my best self in those moments. You know what I mean? Like it can kind of play negatively in that way, which is, I don't know, it seems counterintuitive. You know, you feel like you should be able to, like if you're doing a good thing, like I feel like that's a good thing, staying up and like wanting to be there to spend time with my partner. But if I'm not able to like be engaged and be active and I don't know, just be fully present, then what's really the point of that, right? But you take the time that you can get at the same time. So I try to manage as best as I can so far, but clearly something's not working, right? So let's talk about those 4 things. There was exercise, diet, lack of sleep, and stress. With that idea of sleep, I could make a more conscious effort to go to bed earlier, right? That's going to probably help. If you get more regular sleep, you get a routine. That's something that I envy Evan's ability to do that. My roommate, for those of you who've been watching the podcast, you've seen him, you've met him before, you know a little bit about him. He works 12-hour days. He has an alternating schedule where he's either working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., whatever it is. And he's a machine. Like on the days where he's off at 7 p.m. and then he's working at 7 a.m. the next day, he's home, he gyms, he plays a little bit of games, he's in bed like hard bedtime of like 10:30, and it's like clockwork for him because he like understands the necessity of getting good sleep. Same goes for on his other shifts where he's starting at 7 p.m. and then finishing at 7 a.m. He'll get home, fall asleep almost immediately, and then he'll wake up earlier in the afternoon, and then he'll get a workout in, go to work again, play little games if he could before, right? And so he has this routine. Something that I struggle with is having a random schedule with my workplace. It doesn't really allow me to establish a routine in that sense, but that is an excuse, me talking about it like that, right? I could just make a more deliberate effort to work on better sleep. So that's the first thing, working on better sleep. Something I've been trying over the last week is to make a more concerted effort to go and be active. Recently, the gym in my building opened up again. So on the days where I just feel too tired to make it to the gym that I have a membership at, I'll go downstairs and I'll do a little walking on a treadmill for a little bit, something to get me more active, because that's one of those pillars with burnout is you need to be more active. So I have control over that. I'm making more of an effort to go to the gym. I'm trying to go, again, a few times a week. So that's been feeling pretty good, but it's also tiring, right? It's one of those things where you'll have those days where you just don't want to do it, where you're thinking, what's the point? I could just stay in and I could save my energy for this. But the science is there to tell you that it's right. So I'm still doing my best to keep up with that, Then on the other hand is diet. And I realized when I was talking about my little story earlier where I wake up and I'm tired and I have my coffee, I'm tired. I have my second coffee, I'm tired. I have my pre-workout, I'm tired. I might have a caffeine addiction. Who knows? But if I don't have my coffee, I'm dying. Like I just have no energy. Maybe not that dramatic, but it's a difference, right? But that's part of diet too. I haven't been having necessarily a balanced diet a lot of the time. There was a period recently where it was like 2 weeks almost without going to get groceries, and it was just eating out all the time. It's easy to do that, and that's the trap of it all, right? Is it's easy to not care. It's easy to go and get McDonald's at 1 a.m. when you feel like you're hungry. It's easy to grab Starbucks on your way to work and get one of the little breakfast sandwiches. The breakfast sandwiches are sick. They taste pretty good. At least I think so. I don't know. It's easy not to do meal prep and prepare my lunches for the week, right? So that's on my schedule. Today is Saturday when I'm filming this. I'm going tomorrow to do groceries, and then I'm going to do some meal prep this week for the first time in what feels like 3 weeks almost. And so it's like I've given up on routine with some of these things, right? And that is what's contributing to this feeling of burnout, or at least I hope that's what it is. Because if I go and I start tweaking these things and I don't see an improvement, well, then that leaves me with the less controllable pillar of burnout, which is stress. There's a lot of things that can contribute to stress in your life, and that is maybe a little bit harder to take inventory of. The reason why I think it's difficult to do that is because you are faced with different stressors every day. There's new things that can stress you out all the time. And for me, for a long time, what had been stressing me out was work. It's not stressing me out in the same way anymore because now I'm happy to be back at work. I'm happy to be doing my job now, but there is a new stress, which is I'm trying to improve my results a little bit there, And so it's like you might address one thing. I don't know if you all have ever felt this before, but you'll try and address one of the things that's causing stress in your life, but the next thing shows up, right? It's not like there's a one problem in your life and then it's gone. There's always something else. And that kind of falls in line with this trap that you face of wanting things too. It's kind of a parallel to that, always wanting more in your life, feeling like what you have isn't enough. It goes in a negative way too. That's a positive way, a way to gain more in your life. But when you're looking at negative stressors, there's always going to be another one. There's always going to be something else that pops up. And that's hard to manage sometimes because you might address the one thing that you think is stressing you out, and the next thing you know, there's another. So hopefully this burnout that I'm feeling when I tweak my sleep, when I tweak my diet, when I tweak my exercise, hopefully that starts to get better. I'm trusting that it will, and I'm sure you'll see it in the later episodes, right? You'll notice an improvement, hopefully, in how I am. One of the other things, though, that bothers me with feeling burnt out is that it stops you from feeling any sense of real productivity. Because even when I'm working on things now, it's I'm feeling that it's more out of necessity or more like a mechanical, okay, I'm just working on this edit or I'm just working on this episode planning, whatever it might be, rather than a real joy to it. So the burnout kind of takes away some of the fun of what you're working on too. And that's a bummer. So burnout's not fun. And I hope that a lot of you listening and watching, that if you've ever felt like you're going through something like this, I hope that even just mentioning the fact that I'm also going through this kind of points to the fact that you're not alone in this feeling. When I was talking to other people about the idea of burnout and understanding that like other people are also feeling this, like it's comforting in a way, misery loves company. And I don't know, it's something that I guess we just all face. And especially in, I guess, like metropolitan kind of Western civilization, everybody feels like they're hustling all the time. Everybody feels like they've got something to prove, especially when we're young. It feels like you got to be doing more. But once in a while, it's okay to relax and ease up a little bit and just cut back. Cut back on the stuff that you can, or add in things that are beneficial. I think that's the difference with like the whole fitness side of it and the exercise, making sure that you get some exercise in your day. That is adding something that could potentially make me tired, but it's going to be more beneficial, right? There's all these physiological things that are going to go on in the background after you get your exercise, and then after you're getting good sleep on top of that, that's just going to compound. Things are going to feel better, blah, 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 whatever. But funny enough, there was a album that came out recently. It's called D-Day, a Gangsta Grillz mixtape. It's Dreamville and J. Cole, and the last song on their Heaven's EP, it was a song that came out actually a while ago with just a music video, but now it's out on your streaming platform, so y'all can listen to that too. Great album. I guess you'd call it a mixtape. Either way, whatever. On Heaven's EP by J. Cole, he was talking about what sounded to me like something that would lead to burnout. And I'm sure that everybody, this is the thing too, it doesn't matter what level of success in your career you're at, you're probably going to feel burnt out at some point. It's just normal. It's probably unavoidable, but you got to be able to see the signs of when it is happening, understand that it's happening, and start to make some changes. But anyways, I got a quote from that song, Heaven's EP, and I'll read it out to you. Give me one sec. So the quote is, "I'm kicking my feet up while I write this in somewhere tropical, supposed to be relaxing, but this passion makes that impossible." I feel like that kind of hits the nail on the head with how I feel about working on the podcast and how that can contribute to my own personal burnout. I have a full-time job. I have a 40-hour-a-week job. I have a partner who I spend a lot of my time with. I see my mom throughout the week multiple times. You know what I mean? I keep up social interactions as best as I can. And then I work on the podcast. And the podcast is the thing that I'm most passionate about because it feels the most fulfilling out of all the work that I do. And so, yes, I could look at it and say, okay, maybe the podcast is causing me to be burnt out and I should take a break from doing this. But I don't want to take a break from doing this stuff. You know what I mean? I love doing these. And that's, I think, exactly what J. Cole's saying in that. And he decided to write whatever verse he was writing for that track when he's supposed to be out relaxing on vacation, right? Like this guy's on some island somewhere, whatever he's doing. I don't know. It's the same thing. It's on a smaller scale perhaps, but it's the same feeling. As much as I hate this feeling of burnout, there's a part of me that takes almost like pride in it. And that's maybe silly to say. Maybe that's the man in me. I don't fucking know. It's like you feel some level of pride in working really hard. It's probably a cultural societal thing, that tells you that working hard is great, capitalism, blah, 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 whatever, make your own path, that kind of shit. But it's fun. It's fun seeing like the fruits of your labor, you look around and you see the impact of what you're doing, or you hear the impact of what you're doing. That's why I appreciate so much anytime we get feedback from you guys, because that's like fuel to the fire, it keeps things going. It makes it exciting to keep coming up with new stuff to put out there for you. And I love just hearing positive feedback about what we're doing, right? Always open to constructive feedback too, by the way. So if there's ever stuff that you want to see done differently, please say so. But yeah, I think that track, considering it came out just like today, I think, or yesterday, good coincidence, And I love how the world works sometimes. You might be feeling a certain way, and then along comes some piece of art that, I don't know, connects and just hits a certain note within you and makes you think, oh yeah, I I am on the right path here in a way, because like the world telling you that the thing that you're thinking about is out there too, right? So me thinking about burnout and wanting to do this episode on it, and then coming across this song, just kind of reinforced that maybe this is worth talking about right now. Yeah, so again, I don't have the answer for what would stop a person from feeling burnt out. But there's those things that I mentioned at the start of the episode: exercise, eating a more balanced diet, getting more rest, that I'm going to try. And I'm going to see if those things help me. I'll let y'all know in the next episode too, when Kabir is back and feeling better. And I hope that any of what I've said is useful to you as the audience, especially if you're going through anything similar like this, or if you've been through something similar like this before. It's just a weird feeling, and you can't really shake it. It's like Jesse Dawson has been on the podcast a couple times, a friend of mine, and he's shared his story around growing up with depression and living with depression, and he talked about like holding on tight in the last episode that he was on. He talked about holding on tight to your life, basically, like trust that things are going to get better. And that's the thing that I've always felt, is that things will get better. In general, the trajectory of your life is positive. You're going to end up in a better place than you were in the past. And so this feeling right now, I know it's temporary. It's definitely on my mind a lot, but it's temporary and it's going to get better. But there are going to be days, and there have been days, especially in this last week, where it kind of just feels like I'm losing that grip, that I'm not holding on as tight. But I'm going to take this episode for myself as a reminder to hold on tight and to trust that things are going to be better if I do the right things, right? You can't just sit there and expect things to happen. You have to put in some kind of effort, some kind of work, right? And so that is going to be the exercise, the better diet, and getting a little bit more sleep. So anyways, you got to get a handle on burnout as soon as you can when you see it starting to happen, because it will start to affect other parts of your life. It's going to affect your relationships. It's going to affect your work. It's going to affect your social time. It's going to affect everything. It's going to affect your overall mood. So get a fucking grip on it, and then reel it in. Make sure it's all good. So I hope y'all enjoyed this week's episode. I know this was a much shorter one than usual. Next week we'll be back. Kabir, I'm assuming, will be healthier. I don't know. But assuming he'll be all right. And keep in mind that stuff that I asked at the start too, for those of you who are fans of the podcast. If there are people that you want to see coming on here locally in Vancouver area, let us know. Let us know who that might be. And we'll do our best to reach out and try and get something in the works with those people. But we're going to continue to do that either way. So I hope y'all enjoyed this week's episode. We'll see you next week with another one. And if you're not already, again, make sure you're subscribed. That's going to help this channel continue to grow. And like the video if you made it this far. I'd appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Peace.